こんにちは、ジャパニーズアーモのみさです。Hey guys! Today I'm going to teach you how to properly say to learn or to study in Japanese. So a lot of people already know the verb 勉強する, but there are a few ways to say to learn in Japanese, and actually that's a common mistake that learners make. So I'm going to teach that. So first, if you want to say I'm studying Japanese or I'm learning Japanese,You can say 日本語を勉強してる informally and 日本語を勉強しています formally. If you have already seen my form video, you already know this してる or しています. But if you haven't, basically, if you say 日本語を勉強する, it sounds like the future tense. You will.I will study Japanese. So it doesn't sound like you are studying it currently. So you want to say 勉強してる or しています. So you use the te form and put いる or more informally just てる or formally you say ています. ています. Then that means you're doing something right now or you've been doing something for a while.So that's how we make the present continuous form. So although this sentence 日本語を勉強してる or 勉強しています can be translated to both I'm studying Japanese and I'm learning Japanese, right? And some people might think, what's the difference? In English, for example, if you say I studied Japanese for a year but I didn't learn anything. So,To study and to learn are kind of different, right? To study is more about the process of actually studying, whilst to learn sounds like you actually gained some knowledge. And if you want to translate that sentence, I studied, but I didn't learn anything, we'd translate it like 勉強したけど何も身につかなかった。勉強したけど何も身につかなかった. We would use the verb 身につく, which means to master a skill or something like knowledge or habit sinks in. So in this case, we like to use the word 身につく. In negation, 身につかなかった didn't sink in, didn't master. But this verb is normally used when you talk about a habit.When you say I've got into a habit of doing something, we often say verb 癖が身についた。例えば、話しているときにたくさん手を動かす癖が身についた。高校生の時、イタリア語を勉強してました。で、イタリア人みたいに話すようになりました。Anyway, this 身につく doesn't exactly mean to learn, so don't really remember it as to learn, but here you'd translate like I studied, but I didn't learn. 勉強したけど身につかなかった. Anyway, what I wanted to explain was if you say to study in English, sounds like it's mainly the process, and if you say to learn, then it sounds like you actually gain the knowledge.But in Japanese, at least in informal speech, 勉強する can be used like to learn if you're talking about academic subjects. So you can say 英語を勉強する or 英語を勉強しています and 数学を勉強する生物学を勉強する物理を勉強する歴史を勉強する経済を勉強する and so on. But then when you say I want to learn Japanese, it's a bit different from I want to study Japanese, right? So I want to study Japanese, you can definitely translate it as 日本語を勉強したいです。日本語を勉強したいです。But the English sentence I want to learn Japanese can imply that I want to be fluent in Japanese.Right? Still, you could say 日本語を勉強したいです。But if you want to say I want to be fluent, we would say I want to be able to speak Japanese. So that form, you have to know the potential form. So I made a lesson recently, and potential form of the verb to speak, 話す, is 話せる. 話せる. Remember, if it's the other ending verb, you change the last u sound into る. So 書く, 書ける, 話す, 話せる. 話せる means to be able to speak. So if you want to say, I want to be able to speak, you can't just change the 話せる into the Thai form, the want to form. You have to say 話せるようになりたい. 話せるようになりたい. So first, the verb to become is なる, なる. And I changed なる into its Thai want to form, なりたい. But with this verb なる, you can't just put the verb and put なる, or you can't just put noun and say なる. Depending on whether it's a noun or an adjective, you have to put a different particle. If you want to say I become and then put a noun, so I become a doctor, we would say 医者になる. 医者になる. Or if you want to say I became a programmer, you would say プログラマーになった. So you have to put the に particle if you're going to put the noun. And kind of the same thing happens for な adjectives. So if you want to say I want to become and then put the な adjective, so for example, I want to become beautiful, I want to be beautiful, then the adjective beautiful, きれいな is an adjective. So you want to change the last な into に, きれいに, and then put なる. So きれいになる means to become beautiful. So きれいになった means became beautiful. Or the room got quiet. The room became quiet. Again, you'd say 静かになった. 静かになった. And for e adjectives, you want to change the last e into く and then put なる. So to become hot, to get hot, we say 熱くなる. You change 熱い into 熱く and put なる. So 暑くなった it's like it got hot, it became hot. 最近モントリオールは暑くなりました. You want to say I got taller, like I became taller. Then you change 背が高い into 背が高く and then put なる. 背が高くなった. 背が高くなった. But you can also put a verb and then なる. But between the verb and なる, you have to put the word ように, ように. So for example, when you talk about your baby start talking, start speaking, then we'd say 赤ちゃんは話すようになった. 赤ちゃんは話すようになった. In English, you'd use the verb start, like the baby started. But in Japanese, if you say 赤ちゃんは話し始めた, then it's okay. It could mean that the baby started talking, but it could also just mean that the baby just started talking, like now, not the actual change of the baby. So like if you say 話すようになった, it's like the baby started talking for the first time and now the baby will be always talking, something like that. Or if, for example, the lift was broken but now it works, you could use the verb 始める to start and say エレベーターが動き始めた. 動く is the verb to move or to work. Machines working, we use the verb 動く, like to move. So エレベーターが動き始めた. But it could just mean like the lift just started moving. It doesn't even mean that it didn't work before. But if you say エレベーターが動くようになった, then it implies that it didn't work before, but now it does. So this verb ようになる indicates the change of state. Anyway, sorry I started talking about the verb なる. I was talking about I want to be able to fluent, right? So I said 話せるようになりたい. So 話せる is still a verb, can speak or to be able to speak. And whenever you want to say I want to be able to, you can't do it now, but you want to eventually be able to do something. You'd always use the potential form and then ようになる. So if you became able to speak Japanese, so you couldn't speak Japanese, but now you can. We say 話せるようになった or 話せるようになりました or you couldn't eat vegetables, but now you can. Then you'd say can eat ようになった. So can eat, we say 食べられる. 野菜が食べられるようになった. Now I can eat vegetables. Anyway, it's a bit advanced. I'll make a video just for that later. Anyway, for now, if you want to say I want to be able to speak Japanese, like I want to learn Japanese, then you'd say 日本語が話せるようになりたいです。日本語が話せるようになりたいです。So remember that 日本語を勉強したいです or 日本語が勉強したいです。So it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be fluent. It just means I want to study Japanese. So that's kind of the difference between to study, 勉強する, and to learn, to be fluent. But if you look up the word to learn in a dictionary, you also get another word, manabu, which is translated as to learn. So if you look at the kanji manabu, the kanji is used in other words like 学校, school, 学生, student. So it's something to do with studying. So yeah, manabu, to learn. So you might think, then instead of saying all that I want to be able to speak Japanese, the long sentence, 日本語が話せるようになりたい, couldn't you just say 日本語を学びたい? Then does it mean I want to learn Japanese? It kind of does, but the word manabu is very formal. So if you're talking informally, definitely say 日本語が話せるようになりたいの日本語を学びたい. Because this verb, although it's useful, it's not really used in informal speech. And if you change 学ぶ into its te form, 学んで and then put います、日本語を学んでいます, again, it sounds quite formal. So normally people just say 日本語を勉強しています。日本語を勉強しています。But if you're writing an essay or something, go ahead and use the verb 学ぶ. And unlike the verb 勉強する, this verb 学ぶ also can be used to learn things that are not academic. So 勉強する is usually used with academic subjects. So 日本語を勉強する、数学を勉強する. But this 学ぶ, there are a few expressions like 失敗から学ぶ, to learn from a mistake, or 経験から学ぶ, to learn from experience. So here we would never say 失敗から勉強する. Like in English, you don't say I studied from a mistake. You just always say I learned from a mistake, right? 失敗から学んだ or 失敗から学びました. So this verb does mean to learn, but it's not really used when you want to say I want to learn how to do something or I want to learn piano. For example, if you say ピアノを学びたい, it doesn't sound like you want to learn to play, but rather you want to learn about the piano, like you want to learn about the history or like how it works and stuff. 学びたい is usually about I want to learn about something. So you can, for example, say 日本について学びたい. So then that means I want to learn about Japan. Like I want to study about Japan. But I want to learn about something. If you mean more like I want to find out more about something, I want to know more about something. So like I want to know more about Japan. You can also say 日本についてもっと知りたい. So use the verb 知る, which means to find out. You probably are familiar with this verb in its ている form, 知ってる or 知っています as I know. So you don't really say 知る in the plain form as I know, because 知る, the plain form usually just means to find out. So something についてもっと知りたい, then that means I want to know more about something. But if you want to say I want to learn how to do something, we again would use the potential form, the can form, and say potential form ようになりたい. Just like we said, 日本語が話せるようになりたい. So for example, I want to learn to sing. I want to learn how to sing. You'd have to think it like I want to be able to sing. So we would say 歌えるようになりたい. The plain form of to sing is 歌う, and the potential form you change the last う into える, so it becomes 歌える. So 歌えるようになりたい. 歌えるようになりたい. I want to learn to cook. I want to learn how to cook. Then again you can say 料理できるようになりたい. 料理できるようになりたい. Or I want to learn to drive. I want to learn how to drive. You can say 運転できるようになりたい. 運転できるようになりたい. And if you want to say I want to learn to play the piano, I want to learn the piano, you'd say I want to be able to play. So play the piano, we say ピアノを弾く. ピアノを弾く. So you change 弾く into 弾ける for can play. This verb 弾く is only used with the instruments that the ones that you don't blow. ピアノを弾く, バイオリンを弾く. You want to say play trumpet. We say トランペットを吹く. サックスを吹く. But if you want to generalize, if you want to know the word to play as to perform, then you can also use the word 演奏する. 演奏する. Then that's like any instruments. Anyway, ピアノが弾けるようになりたい is how we say I want to learn to play the piano. So here you'd never say ピアノを勉強したい. Then it sounds like you want to study the piano, like you want to study the history of it. And also if you say ピアノを学ぶ, then again it sounds like you want to study how the piano works and stuff like that. Or if you want to say I study music and the history and stuff, you'd say 音楽を学ぶ. 音楽を学ぶ. Here you don't really say 音楽を勉強する. You can, but definitely 音楽を学ぶ is more common. Because 音楽, depending on the person, it's not really considered to be an academic subject. You say 音楽を学ぶ. So ピアノが弾けるようになりたい. But there is another way to say I want to learn to play the piano. You'd use the verb 習う. 習う. So this verb does mean to learn, but it always implies that you learn from someone. If I say 日本語を勉強しています, then the listener doesn't know if I study on my own or with my teacher. But if I say 日本語を習っています, it implies that I'm learning from a teacher. So 日本語を習っています. And unlike the verb 勉強する, you can use this 習う to mean to learn non-academic things. So you can just say ピアノを習っています to mean I'm learning to play the piano. ピアノを習っています。But again, it implies that you are learning from a teacher. If you are not learning from a teacher, I mean, one way or another, you're probably watching a YouTube video to learn how to play the piano, or you're reading a book, so you could still use ピアノを習っています。If you're learning just with books, then probably you could just say ピアノを練習しています。練習する means to practice, so it literally means I'm practicing the piano. ピアノを練習しています。So yeah, I want to learn to play the piano. You can either say ピアノが弾けるようになりたい or ピアノを習いたい。ピアノを習いたい。Want to learn from someone. And I used to do ballet, and I was, of course, learning from my teacher. So I would have said, バレエを習っています。バレエを習っています。And because I'm talking about the past, I could say, バレエを習ってた。or バレエを習っていました。I was learning, or I used to learn to do ballet. So I said narau usually implies that you're learning from someone, from a teacher, right? But there is also another verb that's similar to it, which is someone ni something or osowaru, osowaru. So this verb is related to the verb osieru, which means to teach someone something. But you say osowaru, then that means I receive the lesson. So you guys, for example, could say ミサ先生に日本語を教わっています。ミサ先生に日本語を教わっています。So the differences between osowaru and narau is that osowaru really focuses on who is teaching you. So you could omit who and say 英語を教わっています。But this sentence really focuses on the fact that I'm being taught by a teacher. Whilst if I say 英語を習っています, then it's still about me learning, but implying that there is a teacher. Depends what you really want to say. So if, for example, someone asks you, 先生は誰ですか? Who is your teacher? You could say ミサ先生に教わっています. Then it puts an emphasis on ミサ先生. Try to be careful with these verbs 勉強する, 学ぶ, 習う. But also remember that if you just mean I want to know more about, I want to learn more about, then use the verb to know, to find out, 知る, so 知りたい. So you can practice these phrases by leaving a comment. You can write 日本語を勉強しています or ミサ先生に日本語を教わっています or 日本語を習っています or 日本語が話せるようになりたいです. I think all these phrases are very useful, so don't be shy and leave a comment. Alright, thank you for watching. じゃあまたね。バイバイ。